Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Tesvav Amud Beis of Maseches Taanis, and we're starting the Gemara right after the Mishnah. This week of On the Same Page is sponsored by Barbara and Jules Meisler, in memory of Jules' father, Yitzchak ben Yehuda. May his neshama have an aliyah from all of the learning. If anybody would like to sponsor On the Same Page, just feel free to be in touch with me. Reply to the email that you get each week. So starting the Gemara, so it's about, as you can find it, about 12 lines from the bottom or so. The Gemara says, Seder Tainios Ketzad. It's quoting the Mishnah. The Mishnah, as you remember, we learned a very long Mishnah. We'll now break it down piece by piece. So the Mishnah started, Seder Tainios Ketzad. What is the order of these fasts? And it said, Motziing es hateva chule. It said you bring out the ark into the street, and you have all these special tefillos and this whole process that we'll discuss further. So the Gemara asks, Vafilu b'kamaisa? They did this even in the first set of 3? As you recall, there's 3 sets of fast. There's 3, then 7. Asks the Gemara, did they even bring it out the first set of 3? Vira minhu, we have a brisa that seems to contradict that idea. It says, Shalosh tainios rishonos. And just to flesh out the question, right? The Mishnah doesn't say that it's only talking about the last 7. It just said Seder Tainios Ketzad. What's the order of the fast days? As I've explained the Mishnah, I've explained in the past that it's talking about the last 7, but it doesn't actually say that. That's what the Gemara is going to work out now. So it seems to say that for all the fasts they would do this. So the Gemara asks a contradiction. It says, V'raminu, we have a brisa that contradicts this. It says, Shalosh Tainios Rishonos Ushnios. For the first set of 3 and the second set of 3 fasts, Nichnasim lebeis haKnesses u'mispalin. They would go into the shuls and daven inside. Kederech shemispalin kol hashana kula, just like you daven the rest of the year. Uvesheva achronos motziing es hateva l'rechovo shalir. And it's only for the last 7 that they bring out the ark into the streets of the city. V'nostin efer al gabe hateva, and they would put ashes on top of the ark. Uverosh hanasian, on the head of the leader. The prince, Uverosh av basting, and on the head of the person in charge of the basting of the court. V'kol echad ve'echad notel v'nosing berosho, and everybody would take ashes and put it on their head. So as our Mishnah said, these ideas, they bring out the ark, they put ashes on. Our Mishnah had that too. The Brisa is adding that this was only for the last 7. Rabbi Nasser Omer, Efer maklahim avin, specifically, not just any Efer, not just any ash or dust. I think the word Efer can have the connotation of any dust, but Rabbi Nasser says no, specifically Efer makla, specifically ashes from something that was burnt up, ashes as opposed to just dirt or dust. So, fine, it had to be specifically that. We'll see in the Gemara why they did that, but what you see from this brisa is not like the implication of our Mishnah. The Mishnah implies that they did this for all the fasts, all 3 sets, 3, 3, 7, all of them. But the Brisa makes it clear it was only the last 7. So is this a contradiction? So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Papa said, Ki tenang nami masnisin asheva achronos tenang. When our Mishnah was taught, it was also talking about only the last 7. Although it's vague, it doesn't make that so clear, but says Rav Papa, that's our Mishnah as well. There's no machlokes going on, there's no dispute here. And when it said, Seder Tainios Ketzad, what's the order of the fast? It meant the last 7 fasts. How do we go about those? Gemara continues, it says, Uverosh hanasi, right? So as the Brisa mentioning, as the Mishnah said, they would put ash on the head of the nasi, on the head of the court, and everybody would put ashes on. Right? V'hadar tani kol echad ve'echad notel v'nosing b'rosh. It says the Gemara, and then it says that everybody would put on their own heads. The implication is first the nasi, then the av based in the head of the court, and then everybody else. Asks the Gemara, Eini, is that true? Meaning, is that the proper order to do it in? V'hatanan, we have a Mishnah. Actually, other girsas that say that it should say v'hatanya, and we have a brisa. Rabbi says, B'gedula maschilin min hagadol. When it comes to something of honor, you start from the greatest person. Uveklala maschilin min hakatam. But when it comes to something like a curse, something bad, then you start from the lowliest, the smallest. What's the example? It says, "Begedula maschilum min hagadol." For something honorable, you start from the higher person. Shneimar, as it says, "Vayomer Moshe," and Moshe said, "El Aaron ul Elazar uli Samar." Moshe had to convey a message. It says he spoke to Aaron, Elazar, and Isamar. In order, Aaron's the greatest, so he's listed first. So when it comes to something honorable, Moshe is speaking to them, informing them of something important. So then you put the greatest person first. However, uveklala maskilim min hakatam. But when it comes to a klala, something bad, a curse, then you start from the lowest. Da'amar Mar, for Mar said, the master said, or some don't have that, just gives an example. The Gemara said the example that the Brisa brings is B'tchila niskal el nachash ve'achakach niskal el chava ve'achakach niskal el adam. When the God cursed the snake, the serpent, and Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve in Gan Eden, so first he cursed, it says, the snake, then Chava, and then Adam, right? God's handiwork. So in order of lowest to greatest, in that order. So when it comes to curses, you start from the bottom and go to the top. So the Gemara is asking, so here it's like a curse, it's a bad time. We're putting ashes on our heads. How come the order was to start with the Nasi, the leader, and the Av Basting, and then go to everyone else? It should be in the opposite order. So the Gemara says, no. The Gemara says, Ha-chashivuso l'ditu. No, this is an honor for them to go first. De'amri lahu, because the people will say to them, Atun chashivisu l'mibayalan rachami yakuliyama. You are chashav, you are significant that you can ask for mercy on behalf of all of us. It's somewhat of an honor to be the ones to represent. It's a great responsibility, but it's an honor to represent the congregation. So therefore, to be the ones to first put on the ashes was in itself something that was an honor, and therefore the greatest went first. Okay, so then the Gemara now quotes another part of the Mishnah, which we just touched on also, Kol echad ve'echad notel v'nosim b'rosho. Each person would then put on their heads. So the way the Mishnah says it, again, is that nosnin efer mako, they would place ash on the top of the ark, and on the head of the nasi, and on the head of the Av Bastin, and everybody would put ashes on their own heads. The implication is, though, that the first two, the nasi and the Av Bastin, were not putting ashes on their own heads. It was being placed on their heads by someone else. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Ada, v'chol echad ve'echad enotel v'nosim b'rosho. Everybody else would put ashes on their own heads. Nasi v'Av Bastin nami nishkulu inuvin inchu b'roshayu. The nasi, the leader, and the Av Bastin, the head of the Bastin, they also should take their own ashes and put it on their heads. Ma'ishna deshakol and shachrina umanachu. How are they different that it was done by someone else who put it on their heads? Why was that done in that way? So Amar Rabbi Abba Damin Kesari, Rabbi Abba from Kesari, Caesarea, he explained, Eino doma misbayish me'atzmo. Now we're going to the top of the next page. L'misbayish me'acherim. You can't compare a person who is embarrassed by himself, he does it to himself, or someone who gets embarrassed by someone else. Meaning, that it's generally, or in certain circumstances like this one, more embarrassing if someone else is the one to put the ashes on. And since the whole point of the ashes here, we'll see more, but is to lower themselves, to make themselves lowly and humble and embarrassed before God, so then they had others put it on their heads. Now why, then if that's the case, why didn't everybody do that? Why didn't everyone have someone else put it on their heads? So the way Rashi explains it, he doesn't quote it, but there's an idea, when it comes to damages, if somebody damages someone else, so one of the 5 things that they have to pay for is the embarrassment. Now, how do you rate what the cost of embarrassment is? So the Gemara talks about it, but it's based on the concept that it depends. It depends who is embarrassing who. The greater someone is, the more embarrassing it could be if someone else does something to them. So therefore, specifically the leaders here, it was extra embarrassing for them to have someone else put ashes on their head as opposed to a regular person, it doesn't really matter that much if I do it to myself or someone else does it to me. The embarrassment doesn't change so much. So therefore, specifically, the leaders, they are the ones who had the ashes put on their heads by other people. Now the Gemara says, "Vehecha manachahu," where would they put the ashes on their head? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak b'makom tefillin. Rabbi Yitzchak said they would put it in the place of the tefillin. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, "Lasum la'avei Tzion," to place, to give to the mourners of Zion, of Jerusalem, Lasis lahem pe'er tachas efer. God says this is a prophecy of comfort, of nechama, of consolation, that God says, I will place upon them pe'er instead of efer. I will put a splendor instead of ashes. Now what's the splendor? So pe'er often refers to tefillin. And that's how the Gemara understands here, that God says, I'll raise them up, I'll redeem them, I will put tefillin instead of ashes. So we see that the ashes, when a person is in mourning, or when in something like this, so then the ashes are put on the place of tefillin. Okay, the Gemara now gives a mnemonic to remember all the next parts. Rechov, Teva, Zakim, Efer, Kvura, Moria, Siman. That's a Siman, that's a way to remember all the next parts. And let's see what those parts are. It says the Gemara, Lama Yotzing L'Rechov. Why would they go out to the street? Why do they take the davening out to the street on these fast days? Reb Chia bar Abba said, Lomar, it's to say, Za'aknu betzina velo na'anenu. We cried out in hiding, or under a roof, behind closed doors, in the shul, for the first 6 fasts. Velo na'anenu, and we weren't answered. Nivaza atzminu v'faraseh. So now we will embarrass ourselves in public to try to get God to respond and to bring rain. Reish Lakish explained a different idea. You know why they go out to the streets? Galinu galuseinu mechaperes aleinu. Galinu, we've exiled ourselves. Galuseinu mechaperes aleinu. Our galus, our exile from the shul, should be a kapara, should be an atonement for us. How relevant to us this week, where we are also exiled from our shuls, that should be a kapara, that should be an atonement for us, just as it was, according to Reish Lakish, on the fast days, when they were looking for rain. And the Gemara says, "My beinayu," what is the difference between these two answers? Again, the Gemara said, why would they go out to the street? The first answer was because it didn't work from inside, right? We better go outside and embarrass ourselves in public. And Reish Lakish said, no, it's an idea of galus, of going into exile. So what would be a nafkamin? What would be a practical difference between these two cases? These two reasons, A practical difference would be if they go into galus they go into exile from one shul to another shul. So they're getting, right, if something happens, they can't remain in their shul, they have to go to a different shul, that's an exile. But it's not going out into public and embarrassing themselves. So according to Reish Lakish, it should really be enough to just go to another shul, and you wouldn't necessarily have to go to the streets. But according to the first reason of Reb Chia bar Abba, that it was specifically to go into a public place where it's more open, more embarrassing, so then it wouldn't work to go to another shul. Why would they bring out the ark? So Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi explained, Lomar, it's to say, to give the following message. Kli tzanua hayolanu. We had a vessel that was hidden. V'nisbaze ba'avonenu, and we embarrassed ourselves, we disgraced ourselves with our sins. Again, this is an act, of return, of repentance. And obviously, if there's still a drought, it means we still have sins. And this seems to be a reference to the idea that we had the Torah hidden inside. It was in the ark, right? Bringing out the ark to the street is really bringing out the Torah to the street. And I guess we had the Torah inside Tanua, stored away, and yet we still we disgraced ourselves. So now that's what the message we're bringing, and I guess we're saying it's not enough it wasn't enough. We have to bring it out. We have to realize that we have a Torah and that we can't disgrace ourselves with sins. V'lama miskasim b'sakin. So another thing they would do. Now our Mishnah, I don't think mentioned this. It's the Yerushalmi. Rashi says the Yerushalmi quotes a brisa that mentions this, and a couple of the things that the Gemara will now discuss. But one of the things that they did was they covered themselves in sackcloth. So why did they cover themselves in sackcloth? So Amr Reb Chia bar Abba, now I'll just explain. The Maharsha says, what do you mean, why do they cover themselves in sackcloth? We know that sackcloth is a form of mourning, like Mordechai in the Megillah. It says that he wore sackcloth. So the Maharsha says, the question here is, they didn't wear sackcloth. Mordechai wore sackcloth. He exchanged his clothes to wear sackcloth, and that's just very, very uncomfortable. And that's how it's part of the mourning process, where you make yourself deliberately uncomfortable. Here, they covered themselves, it says. So they covered the regular clothing. It wasn't necessarily uncomfortable. So if that's the case, why did they do it? So Amar Reb Chia bar Abba explained, it's to say, Hare anu chashuvin kebehema. We are like animals. Rashi says that sackcloth is made from animal hair, goat hair. So therefore, by wearing this thing made of animal hair, so that shows that we said we behaved like animals. We didn't control ourselves. V'lama nosting efer makla al gabe teva. Now, why do we put ashes on top of the ark? Or on top of the Torah? Some have a girsa. It's the same idea, right? Even if you're doing it on the ark, you're doing it on the Torah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi. Yehuda ben Pazi said, Kulomar, it's to say, Imo anochi betzara. It's to acknowledge the idea that God says, I am with you in your suffering. So not only are we putting ashes because we're suffering, but God, so to speak, also wears ashes when we put the ashes on the Torah. Reish Lakish has a different verse to express this idea. The pasuk says, the Imo Anochi B'tzara is in Tehillim Tzadi Aleph 91, and Reish Lakish quotes a verse from Yeshaya, chapter 63, where it says, B'chol tzarasam lo tzar. For all of their difficulties, God also has pain, so to speak. So again, that's the same idea that God is with us in our troubles, and therefore we put these ashes on the Torah as well. Amar Reb Zera said, Meiresh ki avachazino luhu rabbanan diavi efer makla agabe teva mizdazea li kule gufai. When I first saw that the rabbis would put ashes on top of the ark, my whole body shook. So it doesn't say more than that, but I guess it's expressing this idea that this is a big deal. This is we're like putting ashes on God, and it means it's something serious. Why do they put ashes on the heads of everyone? Pligi bar Reb Levi bar Chama Reb Chanina. Reb Levi bar Chama and Reb Chanina debated the reason. Chad Amar, one said, we are expressing the following idea. Anu chashuvim lefanecha ke'efer. We are telling God, we are like ash before you. We are worthless. The Chad Amar, and one of them says, Kadeshi yiskar lanu afaro shel Yitzchak. It's to recall the ashes of Yitzchak, or seemingly the ashes that replaced Yitzchak, the karban that Avram ended up bringing in the place of Akedas Yitzchak, at the binding of Isaac. That's what we want to recall. My beinayu, what would be the difference between these two reasons? Ikebenayu afar stam. The difference would be, can you use just regular dirt, or do you need specifically ashes? If the reason is just to express, I am ash, I'm nothing, so dirt should suffice also. I'm dirt. It's the same thing. But if we're specifically trying to recall the carbon, the offering that Avraham brought in the end, Akedas Yitzchak, which is itself recalling Akedas Yitzchak, that dedication, so it should be enough to, you can't just use dirt, you have to use ashes. Lama yotzim lebeis hakvaros. Why would they go out to the Beis HaKvaros, the cemetery? This also is not mentioned in our Mishnah, but this is mentioned in that Brisa in the Yerushalmi. Rashi says, it's mentioned in the Yerushalmi, in the Jerusalem Talmud, that this is what they would do as well. They would wear sackcloth, go out to the cemetery, and blow horns. So it says, why would they go out to the cemetery? So Pligi bar Rabbi Levi bar Chama Rabbi Chanina. Again, Rabbi Levi bar Chama and Rabbi Chanina debated the reason. Chad Amar, one of them said, Hare anu chashuvim lefanecha kemesim. One of them said, we are trying to express the idea that God, we are like dead, we're walking dead before you. Chad Amar, and one of them said, it's kadesh yivakshu aleinu mesim rachamim. It's in order that the dead will beseech God for mercy on our behalf. Right, or the neshama of the people who are buried there will like we say, often people say at a funeral, there'll be a melitz yosher. They'll be a good messenger on our behalf. So here, right, we want them to ask for mercy. My beinayu. What will be a difference between these two reasons? Whether the reason is it's just to say we go to a cemetery to say that we're dead, or we go there to ask the dead to beseech God for mercy for us. So ikabenayu kivrei akum. The practical difference would be if you go to a cemetery of Gentiles. If the reason is because you want to say it's like we're dead, so that should suffice. It doesn't matter if they're Jewish or not Jewish. You're just trying to express the idea that we are like dead people. But if the reason is because you want them to beseech God to have mercy on you, then you will want to go to a Jewish cemetery. Okay. Now it says, My Har HaMoriah. So this seems to be unrelated to the previous discussion. And the reason why it brings it is just because the same two rabbis are again debating this point. So why is Mount Moriah, Har HaMoriah, called Har HaMoriah? Pligi bar Rabbi Levi bar Chama Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Levi bar Chama and Rabbi Chanina debated this question. Chad Amar, one of them said it's called Har HaMoriah Sheyatza Mimena Hora LeYisrael, because from there came Hora, like Torah, like teachings to Israel and rulings. Right, Har HaMoriah, according to the most basic understanding, and most common understanding, is the Temple Mount. And so the question is, why is it called Har HaMoriah? And the answer is because that's where the Sanhedrin was. That's where the high courts were. That's where the teachings of Torah came from. Like we say, Ki mitzion teitze Torah, from Zion comes Torah. So it's called Moriah from the word like Hora'ah, teaching. B'chad Amar, and one of them said, it's called Har HaMoriah for a different reason. It's Har Sheyatza Mimenu Mora La'ovdei Kochavim. It's the mountain from which fear came to the idolaters, because it's the center of power, so to speak. It's where the Beis HaMikdash was. It's where the temple stood, and from there came fear to idolaters, and that's why it's called Moriah from the word Mora. Okay, the Mishnah continuing and said, "Hazakin shebahang omer lefnei divrei kvushin." After they put the ashes, so then an elder would get up and give Musar, would rebuke the people. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis taught, Im yesh zaking omer zakim. If there's an elder there, then he should be the one to say it. V'im lav, and if not, omer chacham. Then you find a Talmid Chacham, a scholar. V'im lav, and if there's no Talmid Chacham, omer adam shel tzura. You find someone who's tall and just, looks impressive and will inspire fear just from his build. So that's the order of how you choose. First an elder, then a Talmid Chacham, and then someone who's tall. The Gemara asks, Atu Zakin de Ka'amri Afagav Dalav Chachamu? This Zakin, this elder that's being appointed, we would ask him, even if he's not a Chacham, he would come before a Talmid Chacham. Isn't it better, right? We're talking about someone who has to deliver Musar, who has to deliver rebuke. So you can't just pick any old man. He has to be someone who's of stature. So Amar Abaye said it's true. Hachi Kamar, this is what it's saying. Im yesh zaken vihu chacham omer zaken. If you have an elder and he's a Talmid Chacham, so he would be the one to come first. V'im lav omer chacham. And if you don't have an elder, then find a younger Talmid Chacham. V'im lav, and if you don't have that, omer adam shel tzura. Then find someone who's of stature, someone who's tall. Now what would they say? So the Mishnah quoted part of it, but here we have a little bit more. They would say, Achenu, my brothers, lo sak v'Taanis garmim. Sackcloth and fasting are not what cause God to forgive us. Ela tshuva u'masim tovim. It's repentance and good deeds, garmim. Those are what cause God to forgive us. Shking matzinu b'anshe Ninveh. We find that when it comes to the men of Ninveh. Shelo nemar bahem vayara Elokim es sakam ves Taanisam. It doesn't say that God saw their sackcloth and their Taanis and their fasting. Ella, rather it says vayara Elokim es maaseyem ki shavu midarkam hara. It says God saw their deeds, that they had returned from their evil ways. So it's their return, it's their deeds that make a difference, and not that they just put on sackcloth and fasted. Now, what does it say? There it says, Vayiskasu Sakim. This is the verse from the book of Yonah, right? The people of Nineveh were the city that Yonah had to warn to do tshuva. He ran away, didn't want to. Then he ended up going in the end, and they did do tshuva. So how did they do it? It says, Vayiskasu Sakim, and they covered themselves in sackcloth. Ha'adam, man, v'habehema, the animals. Now the Gemara says, Maihu avu abdi. What did they do? So it says, Astri habehemos l'chud ves havlados l'chud. They did something interesting. They separated the animals from their babies. Why did they do that? And then Amru lefanav, and they said before God, Ribono shel olam, Master of the world, Im ein ata merachim aleinu, if you don't have mercy on us, ein anu merachim al elu, we're not going to have mercy on these animals. Now, were they merely threatening God and saying, either have mercy on us or we're going to get these animals? So Rashi tones it down a little bit. Rashi says that what they were saying is, just like you say that we should have mercy on animals, so V'racham al kol ma'asav, his mercy is upon all of his creations, and I guess there's an expectation there that we should have mercy also on the animals. So therefore, so too, you should have mercy on us. And this was a way of asking God to have mercy on us. Not that we were literally threatening that we would do something. Not we, actually, I should say that this is about Nineveh, really. The people of Nineveh weren't threatening that they would kill the animals unless you have, or keep them separate and make them suffer unless God stepped in and saved them. But they were making this was a way of announcing to God, you show mercy on us just like you want us to have mercy on your creations. Vayikru el Elokim b'chazaka. The verse there goes on, it says, and they called out to God b'chazaka, with strength, which seems to imply there was strength to an argument. What did they say? My Amor, what was their argument, besides for what they just said? Amru lefanav, they said before him, Ribono shel olam, Master of the world, Alu b'sheinav. If you have someone who is insulted, or gets insulted, and someone who doesn't, or tzaddik v'rasha, you have a righteous person and a rasha, a wicked person. Mi nidcha mipnei mi, who puts himself aside before the other one? Meaning, who forgives first? You want the tzaddik to forgive or the rasha to forgive? The expectation is on the tzaddik. So God, you're the tzaddik, we're the rasha. So we're the ones who get insulted, you don't get insulted. So Why don't you forgive us? That was their argument to God. Vayashuvu, but it came with tshuva. It wasn't merely that. Vayashuvu ish midarko. The verse continues and it says, and each man returned from his evil ways, uminachamas asher bekapeim, and from the thievery, the violence that was in their hands, which means, the Gemara says, umay uminachamas asher bekapeim. What does that mean? That there was violence in their hands? Amar Shmuel afilu gazal march, even if somebody had stolen a beam, ubano bebira, and he built it into a building, mikakea kol abira kula umachzir marish lebalov. He would break down the building in order to return the beam to its rightful owner. That was the violence that was bikapeim. That was the that they had stolen, and they went so far as to return something, even if they had now built it into a building. Amar Rav Ada Bar Ava said, Adam sheyesh biyado aveira umisvada. If a person has an aveira that they've done a sin, and they are misvada, they confess it, they say vidoy, they say, al chait, ve'eno chozer ba, but they don't actually return from it. And in the case of stealing, they don't return the object. I'm so sorry I stole, but I'm keeping it, right? L'mahu domeh, what is such a person similar to? L'adam shetofe sheretz biyado. It's like a person who's holding a sheretz. A sheretz is a rodent, different types listed in the Torah, that make a person tameh, ritually impure. So it's like you're holding onto one, so you're constantly becoming impure. Even if you would go to every single sea, every single mikvah in the whole world, though also lo tvila, his immersion in the mikvah won't help to become pure because he's holding that which is making him impure. But zarko miyado, if he throws it from his hand, kiven shetala b'arba'im sa, even if he immerses in just 40 sa, the minimum size of a mikvah, miyad also lo tvila, immediately the tvila works, right? And so it's the same thing with stealing. If you steal and you go into the mikvah, you confess, but you're still holding the stolen object, so then that doesn't do anything. Shenemar, as the verse says, umodeh ve'ozev yirucham, someone who admits and abandons the sin, God will have mercy on him, because he's abandoned the sin. He's gotten rid of it. Ve'omer, and also it says, Nisa livaveno el kapayim el kel bashamayim, which literally means we raise our hearts, el kapayim, to the different ways to understand it, but let's say for now to the clouds, to God in heaven. But the Gemara is interpreting it, the way that Rashi says it is, Nisa livaveno el kapayim, we raise our hearts to our, kapayim can also mean hands, and it means with our hands. We raise our hearts with our hands to God in heaven. I mean, it's not just enough to have our hearts to God in heaven, but our hands also. So if we've stolen something, so then we have to return it. We also have to act. Our hands have to be a part of our tshuva. It can't just be in heart, but it has to be in action as well. And so that was the tshuva of the people of Nineveh, that they didn't just do tshuva in their hearts, but they did tshuva in their actions as well. And they changed themselves, and that's what on our fast day. That's the musar that the person will give, the rebuke, and say it's not just about mourning, but it's also about actually changing our ways. Thank you for listening. Have a great week.